Good morning, Dick Like. Just want to say hi to you this morning and talk a little bit about unusual properties such as historic homes and what's going on in that market. We have, uh, in fact, we've been pretty much blessed in this part of the world. I know our homes are not as old as in Boston and some of the other parts of the Northeast, but a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of significant historic properties around our area in the Mid-South and southeast of the United States, because back before the Civil War, this was one of the wealthiest spots in the United States. The, People don't always realize that the city of New Orleans was one of the 5 largest cities in the United States, and these are items that people never really bring up. And most of the money was made in agriculture, no question about that. The thing about it is that the agriculture brought these folks a lot of wealth, and they were able to build uh, the homes commensurate with the wealth that they had generated. The main product back then was cotton, but other people don't realize that sugarcane was even a better crop than cotton, and sugarcane was probably more prevalent down in southern Louisiana. And if you look around the southeast, you'll see that at the time, prior late 1800s, early 1800s to mid 1800s, most of the wealth in the United States was through agriculture, as before what they call the Industrial Revolution. And these homes are really jewels. They are each a treasure to look at, because they were built with a lot less equipment than we have today, not as sophisticated machinery and everything that we have to build homes today. And the homes would have been built out of brick, or they would have been built out of the native lumber in the South, such as cypress and hard pine. Those were good woods for building wooden houses if you're going to do that. And then on top of that, we had real brick houses. There's a difference there. And that today, when we build a house, we often go ahead and build a wooden frame and then come back on top of that frame with brick, and we call that a brick house. Technically, it's not a brick house, it's a brick veneered house. But the homes that we built back in those days, in the 1800s, were what we call a brick house. They were solid brick. There wasn't a wooden frame that we added brick to. The walls were all brick. Three rows of brick made the walls, from the footing of the house all the way to the attic floor level. And we don't see that much today. It's not done that way anymore, as you're well aware. But that's one of the unique advantages to these homes, and keeps them here for a long time. Also, a little quirky thing is the bricks didn't have holes in them like today's bricks. They were solid brick. Each brick weighed about 8 pounds, just to give you an idea. And then these homes had a lot of neat architecture. The rooms are large. Typically, the ceilings are going to be anywhere from 12 to 14 feet tall. That helped for ventilation back before we had air conditioning, even before we had window screens. But the question is, where do you find the souls that enjoy these things? And that's where you find the buyers that want a home that has the history to it and has the soul to do the work it takes to bring that home into today's style of living. And it can be done because our equipment has made so much advances when it comes to heating and air conditioning, electrical, even lighting today. You don't necessarily have to have 110 to light anymore. You can use LED lighting that cuts down on the voltage, cuts down on the amount of thickness of wiring that you need, and so forth. HVAC, they've made so many improvements in that. And those, at one time, that was a major cost to a house. It's no longer necessarily the case. But you can find one of these homes and you can restore it. You can bring it up to today's living style. And what you really see here is the charm and the living experience that these homes offer. Usually they're very much a usable home, even though when they were originally built, most folks don't ever think about this, they didn't have bathrooms in them. and they didn't have kitchens in them. The kitchen was usually built in a separate house from the big house because they didn't want the kitchen to catch fire and burn down the big house. So later, around 1900, maybe pre-1900, they started bringing the kitchens in the house, and they started putting indoor plumbing into the houses probably in the 1890s. But the main thing about these historic homes is the way they were built. They were built so well. They were actually built where every opening in the house usually would have shutters. Every window would have shutters, and they were built where if the owner of the house was gone for 3 months, they could just shutter the house, and it would just sit there and be ready to open back up when they came back to the house. So they're built that they can stay there for a long time without anybody living in them, as long as you don't have a leaky roof or something of that sort. But the charm of it all is what's really neat. And I realize that we don't all appreciate history today as we should, but the historic values of these homes are just wonderful for you to share as you live in it with yourself and enjoy, for you to have the advantages of large rooms, high ceilings, the decor, all of these things that make your life pleasant, and at the same time be able to share all this with your friends and others. That this is a pretty neat place. It's fun to live in a place like this, and me being a tall guy, I don't have to worry about bumping my head on everything. But I think it's something that if you haven't gotten into or you're not involved in, it's certainly something that you ought to think about at times. If nothing else, visit some of these historic homes and see what they really offer.